Great Friday evening, everybody, and welcome to the Hearts of Men podcast sponsored by the Empower Perspective community. I'm one of your hosts, Coach Dwayne Dwyer, and I'm joined this evening by Mr. Rolling Down the Street. And I'm sorry, I got a little back feedback on over here. Mr. Rolling Down the Street, Minister Roland Walker, and for the first time this evening, the son of Timothy, young Timothy, Mr. Tawami Gaddy. Gentlemen, how are you this fine evening?
Go ahead. I'll let us the
Let the guy
guest.
go.
The guest.
Man,
He a treat for everybody. But I'll let him speak first.
man, I'm blessed. I'm blessed. Thank you, brothers, for allowing me to join the conversation with you, great, fine gentlemen. Happy Veterans Day to you both.
Oh man, thank you. Happy Veterans Day to you as well, and happy Veterans Day to all of our veterans out there. Who's actually joining us tonight, man. For me, it is an honor to serve, and I just pray that those who are continuing serving, who are continuing to serve, like my brother, Mr. Young Timothy over here, Mr. Twami Gaddy. For you guys, I would greatly appreciate the sacrifice that you guys make. No one really understands it who's never been there, but those of us who's been there, we understand what kind of sacrifice that is. Dedicating long hours away from your family, and especially when you go to the field and deployments and all that other great stuff. So, man, just thank you for what you do, brother, and we greatly appreciate you.
You see, they already in the chat talking about young Timothy over here.
Hey, man, young
Chris said
Timothy.
he wish he was here. Hey.
And shout out to my brother Chris, man. Chris couldn't join us this evening, but you greatly missed, sir, and we greatly appreciate you. So look here, man. Welcome to this evening show. Listen, shout out to the chat, man. Again, you guys are awesome. Greatly appreciate you guys. Lisa Keys, again, Chris. We see you out there, brother. Be safe out there at work this evening. Michelle Ray. All you guys in the chat, we greatly appreciate you. Listen, if this is your first time joining us, by all means, go to YouTube, type in Empower and Perspective. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button and share it with somebody else, because somebody else needs to hear some of the things that we're talking about this evening. Because we always seem to have pretty good topics, and this one is making the right career choice. Now, I kind of want to set the conditions for this because I'll be honest with you, man. When I came out of high school, I had no earthly idea what I wanted to do. And I can just imagine what some of these, young men and young women out there are going through. What about you guys? Did you guys come out of high school knowing exactly what you want to do?
Know what I wanted to do?
Yeah.
I think my situation was a little different because I had them miles to feed, so it was either to keep trying to be Ghost from Power or join the military. So I have some type of longevity of life, supposedly.
What about you, Gaddy?
Yeah, man. To be honest with you, my father, he served before, well before I was born, Vietnam era. But when I heard his stories and everything, so every man who has a father in his life, wants to be like his daddy some sort of way. So it was either do the stuff he was doing on the streets in the 90s or, military life. Now, as far as what to do when I joined the military, I had no idea. I didn't even know there were options. I just wanted to be in the uniform.
Yeah.
Oh, so you was one of them ROTC kids?
Hey man, what's wrong with ROTC?
We got the Green Boys in the house, like on Major Pain.
Oh wow, really? He went there. He went with the Green Boys from Major Pain, man. Come on, man. Listen, I was an ROTC kid. I loved it. I enjoyed ROTC. Shout out to ROTC, man. Don't be hating on me.
Oh no, that's ROTC. Son Jones,
Jay Roxy.
That's my baseball coach.
Yeah. So that's kind of like where we're gonna go this evening. Now, listen, I want to set the conditions for this because again, like we just shared with you, we had no idea what we wanted to do when we graduated high school. So first and foremost, what I want to do, because I always like to start with reflection, right? I want to kind of like walk through what your process was to get to where you. I think all three of us joined the military, right? So what was your process to figure out what you what you were going to do in joining the military?
Oh, join the military for me. I had gotten shot in Detroit and had some other mishaps, and I knew I had to join. I knew I had to get away, and that was my best option at the time that I thought. And when it came down to joining and picking a job, my recruiter told me He said, I can't tell you what to take, but if you call me, I would tell you what I wouldn't take. So you go in, they offer you Cav Scout, they offer you field artillery, no offense. They offering you all these jobs where like, man, if I'm gonna get shot at, I can do that right here.
Right.
And then I was just, yeah, oh, Lord, here you go. Hey, I love the field artillery.
Yes, sir. Everybody does when they need us.
Yeah. But I was coming in as an MP because I wanted to be a police officer in on the outside. So I was coming in as an MP, and then I had some legal mishaps, and then they said, "Dude, you got to change the job." So I said, "Okay, change my job." So medic came about. So remember, I'm a young 18-year-old, 18 years old. I heard medic, and the recruiters kind of fudged the truth. Dude, you're gonna be working in the hospital, and all this other stuff. They boosted my head up, talking about all these nurses and like okay. And so yeah, I'm 18 at the time. So hey, that's exactly they had me hooked in the mouth.
Got
Yeah,
him.
yeah.
So yeah, that's what got me in that field. And other than uh, medical field, I did NBC, nuclear, biological, chemical, uh, and that was cool. But medical was my thing.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you, Gaddy? How'd you get in the army?
Uh, so I'm gonna tell the story a little differently because I feel it's the story of a lot of young men. You know, kind of like Roland. I didn't get shot. You know, but a lot of my boys did. You know, everybody around me. You know, everybody was a thug, drug dealer, game banger, all ball player, right? And anybody from I'm from New York, right? I'm from the Bronx. I graduated high school out of Staten Island. Now, in the hood, there's certain people that are protected from the drama, from the mess. Those are normally your stars, your ball players, your football players, those guys, right? But for me, it was a little different. You know, everybody knew I was trying to join the military. So my process, really, to be honest with you, I had a lot of friends who wanted to see me succeed. And because of that, they kind of kept me protected from a lot of the mess and allowed me to journey on through. Now, I wanted to be infantry, ranger, airborne, all that good stuff. But as I started getting older, I wanted to do something I felt was more important. And I didn't know what a human resource specialist was. I thought I was like going to be saving combat people or so. I didn't know what I was going to be doing, man. And next thing I know, I was pushing paper.
There you go. I love it. I love it. Shout out Sergeant Major Fuentes. I see you over there, Ed. Hey, appreciate you. Always good to see you, my friend. He's doing great and wonderful thing. Retired Sergeant Major, 30 more years, and now he is man, he is just still serving. So just shout out, great guy, great husband, great soldier, all around, great friend. As we're going through our reflection, everybody in the chat, what I would like for you to do, if you don't mind, I would like for you to share how you chose your career coming out of high school, because I think this is very eye opening for the younger generation to see. It wasn't just like we came out of high school and we knew exactly what we wanted to do, and some of us did, right? But some of us did not. Me, I was clueless. Let me tell you the truth. I'm gonna be honest with you. When I was in high school, in my mind, I wanted to be an accountant. I did. And so when I went to college, because I went to college fresh out of high school, and here's the funny part about it: I didn't know I was going to college. I woke up one day and said, "You know what? I'm going to college," and that's how it worked. I literally got out of bed, went to the college, and went because they were doing, enrollment. I went, enrolled, took a placement test, and next thing you know, I'm a student. And to be honest with you, I took, freshman. I started taking some of my classes, and I realized I didn't want to be an accountant anymore because when I started, let's say back then, back in the early '90s, we were doing manual ledgers. So we were handwriting those numbers. Not like it is right now. Everybody got computers and programs and all that stuff that does the work for you. But we were doing manual ledgers. And man, I'm telling you, it was frustrating. I didn't want to do that anymore. And I think I stayed in college for maybe a year. And from that point on, I said, you know what? I'm just going to go back to Old Faithful. Now, mind you, my father, he was a soldier, and he, at that particular point in time, he was right around his 20-year mark. and he told me, he said, "Son, whatever you do, don't join the army." And so that's what I did. I joined the army. So, and I didn't do it because he told me not to. It was always available for me, right? My family background,
Yeah.
there's a lineage of soldiers. Like my father's in the army, my uncles were in the army, my grandfather was in the Navy, both grandfathers were in the Navy, actually. So I had a history of being in the military. So that was just, if I'm just being completely transparent, that was the easy button for me. I could go check that and just be out. And to be honest with you, it wasn't where I'm from, my neighborhood wasn't as bad as you described it, Gaddy. But I just knew the way my mind worked, I needed to leave. I needed to go do something else because at the end of the day, I just didn't feel that I would reach my full potential there. And by the way, I had no clue what my full potential was. So that's kind of like what reflection looked like for me. Just looking at some of these things, Cassandra McKenzie says she is from a military family. So shout out Cassandra. Um, and she wanted to be an international corporate lawyer coming out of high school. I didn't even know that was a thing, to be honest with you. So shout out, awesome, awesome. I love it. Thank you for sharing that. Uncle Junior, good to see you, my friend. He chose the military to get away. Got out, went back, and felt stuck because he had the skills. 20 years later, he retired. You know what? That was kind of like my thing. When I joined, I never had any plans on retiring. I just joined and said, "Hey, let's just see where this thing go." And next thing you know, I re-enlist, and they said, "Hey, here's a bonus. Would you like to join?" Sure, why not? I joined. I have re-enlisted for 6 more years. Before you know it, man, I was sitting at the 10-year mark, and I'm like, "Well, there's no need to turn back now." So yeah, thank you for sharing that, Uncle Junior. Let's see, Michelle Ray, good to see you. She says she chose the army to follow her father's footstep because college wasn't an option for me. And I'm glad you said that because we're going to touch on that here coming up here shortly. And 25 years later, she was a career soldier. Thank you for sharing that. There he is. There he is. Star of the show. Sam Major Fuentes. He said, "I'm a product of an 80s war movies, Rambo." He
I
said,
believe him
you
too.
know
I
what?
believe.
Knowing him
Yeah.
and Gad, if you met him, this would fit his personality, man.
Yeah.
I was sharing with him because so me and Edgar talk a while back, like when I first started podcasting. Now I made a joke when he first showed up to the unit. I heard this raspy voiced guy all the way across the courtyard yelling. I'm like, who was that cat?
What do you
And
say?
why is
Hey,
he
high
so
speed.
sharp? Huh?
What do you say? Hey,
I
hey,
can't.
high
I
speed.
can't. Yeah. That's his thing. That's his thing. And then him and we had a first sergeant as well. They was like, they was tight. And man, this first sergeant was probably one of the coolest cats you ever want to meet, man. And I mean, those guys are just awesome to be around, man. So shout out again to Sergeant Major. Appreciate having you. Chris said he wanted to be a mechanical engineer. Look at the big brain on Chris. But he couldn't grow. Okay. He tried the military, but they told me no due for having cancer. And so he worked and was in survival mode. Hey man, I get it. Again, shout out for Chris for beating cancer, man. That dude is awesome. We miss you tonight, brother. Just want to make sure I say that again. Um, and lessons from the living room. Hey, good
Yes,
to see you,
sir.
my friend. That's my brother. It's my brother Dwayne Richardson from Lessons from the Living Room, man. Let's see. Um, Lisa Keys again sending us some Veterans Day shout outs. Appreciate it. Always great to see you guys. And you guys are just awesome. Shout out to the chat, man. These guys are awesome. So now that we've went through reflection, tonight's show is going to be kind of different. And so I'm asking you right now, go ahead and give me all your questions that you want because these brothers, like the awesome job that they do, they're going to answer them. So whatever questions you have for your children or for your nephews or whatever to kind of help them start off in life, that's what we really want to entertain tonight. So the first thing I want to start off with, gentlemen, is what are some of the challenges that the younger generation is facing in today's market?
I think the younger generation has some lofty expectations due to social media because they see people dancing or people doing this or people doing things on social media and getting paid a lot of money without a lot of skill. Or if they go down to Miami and get a little with the BBL or all this other stuff. So I think a lot of people, this younger generation wants something quick without having to put in the work.
Hmm.
And I see that a lot. I got like I have children, and I see things in there. They have lofty expectations, but they don't necessarily want to put the work in. They don't want to get their hands dirty. And I always tell them, well, whatever you do, remember you're getting paid for your time. So if you think you don't want to learn anything, you don't want to do anything, and you think 7.25 an hour is worth your time, go out and do that. But you can't live off of it.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to put your mind and your hands towards, remember that you're getting paid for time.
Yeah. Now, before we jump over young Timothy real quick, I want to kind of lean into that because you said a mouthful. I'm gonna ask a question, and I feel like I need to duck after I ask this question. By the way, where do you think that stems from? Like, why do you think they just don't want to work and they just want it? I mean, it was your story. I'm gonna let you finish with it. But where do you think that stems from?
We made them lazy. I think we made them lazy. Our generation, because we had to work, we had to take out the trash, had to clean up the house, had to clean the stairs. And when I was coming up, we didn't have a lawnmower with a motor. I was the motor. I had to push, pull, sharpen blades, and we had to get our hands dirty. And then I think when we got older, we sheltered our kids from having to do a lot of that, and it backfired on us in the long run.
Hmm. See, and that's the reason why. Because I just want to know if you were thinking the same thing I was thinking,
Yeah.
because I've been saying that for quite some time, right? I think a lot of times, based upon our experiences, we feel that it was more important to shelter them to prevent from them learning the value of actual work. And
Mm-hmm.
therefore, what they feel now is that they just want you to give them whatever they want. Like, I think we talked about it when we talked about the financial literacy piece. Daddy, can I have? Daddy, can I have? Daddy, can I have? Daddy, can I have? And for me, I was that person. I was like, well, I tell you what, you can go cut the grass, and I'll pay you for cutting the grass. And then it dawned on me, like, wait, what? Stop! I'm not paying him no more for cutting the grass. You live here. You
Right.
eat. You
Yeah.
you you got a roof over your head. You're supposed to cut the grass because it's your rightful service. So yeah, I had to catch myself because and I'm talking about me. I'm not talking about anybody else. I had to catch myself because I did not mind teaching my son the value of money, but I did not want him to feel that I needed to pay him to do chores because that's where he lived. And so as he get older, hopefully he gets to the point where he understands that, well, I got to work to pay for where I live, but nobody's going to come in here and pay me money just to clean up my own house. That's my responsibility. So with that being said, we teach them responsibility by helping them to understand the value of hard work. So thank you for sharing that, brother.
Also, we had mothers and grandmothers that, whether it was male or female, when they did something, you were there doing it with them.
Hmm.
So they had that yoke, like you yoke an ox together or a horse or
Yeah.
whatever. So you walk with the older, so you would learn. So that's why this generation can't cook. Damn it, they can't cook. They'd be like, okay, let me get on Google, let me get on YouTube or whatever. Like my daughters used to call me anytime they were trying to cook something because they didn't learn how to cook. Their mother didn't teach them, and I didn't teach them. So, but when we were growing up, we had to get out. We had to cook. We had to wash clothes, iron clothes. But now, just like in the military, you have that wash and wear, don't have to iron uniform mentality.
Yeah, yeah. No, good point. I'm glad you shared that. Young Timothy, what you got for us, brother?
Uh, on that topic right there, I'm gonna add to what y'all think. The technology
Mm,
era, the growth of technology and social media, because not only are people making money, you have a lot of people who are showing everything they're doing on social media, so these young kids see that, and in their mind, there's a quick fix to everything because so and so make this money, or so his money, or his car, his shoes, whatever. And if you those who are gonna make my kid, I'm not gonna make my kid do that, unengage them from the eye of working to get to somewhere.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's my take. I'm sorry, Jenna. I
No, no,
I
you
don't know
good.
what
You
y'all
good.
can see, but it looks like I'm having a little difficulties.
Yeah, you
But
stay
Yeah.
over there by the airport, so
that's
I
what I feel.
understand.
Sometimes I just want to tell these young people, yeah. I be trying to tell some of these young kids though, get off of social media. Stop living your life uh through the social media posts because yeah, the grass is green. He said the grass might be greener on the other side, but somebody's doing the upkeep.
Yeah.
And then that always
Absolutely.
triggered in my head. You want that greener grass, you got to do the work.
Yeah.
You got to be like Roland and be out there pushing that non-motor lawnmower.
Yeah. Yeah. I see what you did there. But no, you're absolutely right, and I'm glad you brought social media to the conversation because I think what we don't necessarily conceptualize sometimes is that you get the highlight reels of somebody else's life. So you're going to get the best of the best. Nobody's going to put most people, let me say it that way. Most people are probably not going to put the entirety of their life story on social media. You're going to get the best of who they are today. So you're going to get the first fruits of the blessing, and they're going to talk about the brand new car. They're going to talk about how wonderful their spouse is. They're going to talk about all this other great, wonderful things. But you have to keep in mind that it's just the highlight reels. It's not the entirety of the story. It's not reality. And I think sometimes what we see is that we can actually live vicariously through somebody else's highlight reel, not even understanding that, unfortunately, if we think that every day is supposed to be like that, then we're setting ourselves up for some low grade depression. So I think for the most part, we have to come to the understanding that we just have to kind of condition them to be in the right mindset when it comes down to how we're supposed to behave. I'm agreeing with everything that you guys are saying. I think the piece that I want to add to is that, because I think we may have experienced this as well, is that a lot of the younger generation will get to the point too where they want to move away from the tutelage and the training and the upkeep and the advice that they get from their parents. Parenting is an art that involves training up front. You kind of mentioned it when you mentioned, going outside, cutting grass, and walking with them as they, cut the grass and things of that nature. So there's a train up period that goes along with it. Let me show you how to do it. Then I'm going to do it with you, and then I'm going to observe you do it. So now I understand that you know how to do it the right way. So there's a train up piece that goes all the way up to a certain age. And then at that point, we become more conversational with the child so that the child can understand that we're respecting the development of who they are. As they get to the point till they become adults, we're not parenting anymore. We're advising. So we're not telling them what to do or how to do it. They're coming to us and sharing parts of their life with us. And then we're asking them certain questions along the way to kind of help them get to the point to having a better or a higher sense of awareness. Here's the other piece to it as well. If they ask me a question, I would tell them the truth. But again, that's just the truth from my perspective. You're still an adult. You do what you feel is best for you. Whatever you choose, I support it. As long as it's not crazy, as long as it's not no foolishness. So I think that's the piece I want to add to it because I think that's one of the biggest challenges that they're going to face. And when we talk about this particular topic here, I think we're going to see why that was my piece. So that being said, again, great. I mean, again, great responses, gentlemen. Let me see. We got some more information in the chat here. Michelle Ray say the challenges she faced was centered around being angry and wanting to hurt others emotionally, and the army helped her to deal with that. I mean, I think the army was a great place. Once I kind of bought into the system and I decided that I wanted to, engulf myself in it, then I think, I learned a lot. It taught me a lot and it kind of helped me to develop. Lisa Keys, I'm sorry about that. The false narrative of reality TV, music, and half truth on social media is the cause of some of these young people's thought processes and behavior. Yeah, I can actually agree with that 100%. And again, sometimes, and this is not necessarily this topic, but sometimes we let social media raise our kids. I hate to say it that way.
And I got an experience with that because see, since I got 5 daughters, I can talk about one of them, and I ain't saying no names, but everybody know. But I had one daughter when she was around 21, 22. She wanted to go try out for the TV series Bad Girls Club. And if you ever seen Bad Girls Club, it's a bunch of women that go on there acting a fool, trying to get attention, trying to get their own little spinoff and this, that, and the other. It's about selling sex and bad attitudes. And because she didn't have any direction right then. And I'm glad that she's glad that she didn't do it, because she reflects now and say, man, that would have been a bad decision, because she was looking at how other people had gone on to these reality shows and got spinoffs, and now they're making money, and now, they all on TV, this, that, and the other. So,
Yeah. So our major says excuse me, the more we tell them to get off social media, the more interesting it is for them. Look what we're doing right now. Now I ask them, what are you doing with this social media thing? Invest, trade. Great point. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, they're not going to get away from it. They're not going to get off social media. But if we can kind of redirect their attention to something that's more positive and something that will actually uplift, that builds them up and make them a better person for the future, then that would be probably more ideal for them. Telling them to get off is just probably not going to work well for them, because it's a trend. It's what everybody is doing. So great point. So I appreciate you sharing that. So next, so just so that you guys know, I kind of solicited some questions before the show. And so some of these questions that are coming
Look,
now, I'm sorry, go ahead, brother.
can I jump?
Yeah, absolutely. Can you hear me?
You got that AOL, that dial-up.
But you're wrong for that. Hey, yeah, I see you moving now. Can you hear me, Gary?
See, I told you, got all them kids with them tablets in the house. They sucking up the energy. You sound like you look like you can talk now.
I don't know what it is. It was working good.
Oh, you good now?
There you go.
I said it was working good. I just don't know. Okay, my bad. Now I wanted to touch on that statement about not telling them to get off social media because it'll get them more interested. I think that's what thing when you're teaching how to prioritize, the things you.
It ain't working, guys.
Just a nice post.
Yes, I think he said teach them how to prioritize.
Right.
And then in the end, I got the nice post. That's what I got. But I think his point is that if we try to take something away from a person, restrict them, then that becomes their dominant thought. Therefore, they want more of it.
That was the gist. Yeah,
that was the gist. All right, so moving forward, man, we're gonna pray for Brother Gad over here, get his stuff squared away. But we got him. You're welcome anytime you're ready, sir. But so these questions, right? The questions are for people who sent them in to me already. And again, this is what we do. I want to do going forward. I want to make sure we're answering specific questions that you guys want. So the first question was just simple, plain, cut and dry. College or no college? What do you think I should do?
You don't want blank. I think college or no college depends on your student. On the student level, and also, I think we say college or no college, and we stray away from establishing a passion within them. Because if they're, like you said, you want to be, I think you said, an accountant. If you want to be an accountant, you have to go to school.
Mm-hmm.
But some people, like myself, if I had started out as an entrepreneur early on, because I like to talk, I like to run my mouth. Anybody that knows me know that's what I do. I'm a networking person by nature. So you put me in that environment. It like, even when I went to college, I got all this college under my belt, and I don't plan on using any of it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So if the military didn't pay for it, I would have wasted a bunch of money.
Yeah.
But I think college depends on the person. But I think we need to expose them to various things, various cultures, various cultural things in society where they can say, man, I have a passion for the arts. I have a passion for music. When they find their passion and see what stimulates them on the inside, they won't go to college and get a job and be miserable working a
Yeah.
9 to 5.
So I'm glad you said that because that's where I was at. Like, what do you want to do? Like, when you sit down long enough and envision what your life look like, what is the thing that you're doing to where you're thriving? What is the thing that you're doing to where you feel like you were called to do that thing? And it's going to require the child to think into it. You may have to sit down with them and talk to them about a number of different things. Like, what are you passionate about? Like, what gets your attention right now? And it may not necessarily be the final answer right now, but coming up with an answer is the goal. Because let's just be honest, your initial phases is probably the phase where you're just going to get the necessary skills that you need to be the thing that you're supposed to be later on. So you won't know in the beginning. But my thing is this: if the thing that you share, if it takes you to college, then let's plan to go to college. If the thing that you share takes you to, like Cassandra said, learn a trade, then let's learn a trade. Whatever you choose to do, I want to empower you to be the best that, whatever that is, right? And then I want to help you plot the course. That's why I started off with the whole idea about the parents, right? About children losing that connection with the parents, because parents are supposed to help their children get to that destination, help them figure out what life looks like. It's not like we perfected life, we just lived it a little bit more. So, with that being said, we are talking from the perspective of having a better understanding of life in general, but we're not life perfectionists. So we're just kind of sharing some experience, and it helps children sometimes when we say, I wish I had this. I wish someone shared this. I give you a perfect example to go along with this. When I was married, living right around the corner from Roland, just learned that. When I was married, my daughter came home from school and she got her college acceptance letter in the mail. And it's just one of those days I came home early. Don't call me after the sermon. It was just one of those days I came home early, right? So I'm sitting in my favorite chair and she walked in, man. It just looked like somebody just licked the red off her candy. So I asked what's wrong. And so she didn't say nothing. She just gave me the letter. And obviously the letter said, well, she need to go to the junior college first. So I sat her down and we talked. And I asked her, I said, well, what is it that you want to go to college to do? She said, I want to be a teacher. I said, okay. I said, well, you do realize that the military will pay for you to go to college, just like Roland just said. And so we talked about some things. Now, let's just be honest. I know my child. My child wasn't Army material. So I talked about the Air Force. I didn't talk about the Army at all because she is not the type of person to get out of bed. So lo and behold, by the time we talked for about a good hour and a half, she was ready for me to call a recruiter. And I did. And now she is still in the Air Force, still to this day. So I think that's kind of like the idea. Did she ever go to college? Absolutely not. She didn't even think about college when she seen the drill sergeant hat because that was her goal. She wanted to be a drill sergeant. I think that's the thing. You're going to go through so many changes. You're going to go through different experiences. These experiences are going to point you in this direction, and then what you thought you wanted to be in high school, you may not even want to be that anymore. So I think the idea is college or no college, and I think Michelle Ray is answering it right here. College and no college, like Roland said, it depends on the person. College just helps you to get to where you're trying to go. College is not the destination, but there's nothing wrong with going back to college at a later point in time. And let's just be honest, because I work at the Cyber Center of Excellence. And trust me, I deal with a whole bunch of officers that, they got college degrees, but they're like, man, forget that college degree. It's these certificates that we're getting. And they have to have like 5 or 6 different certificates to do their job. So what you're finding now is that there is a wave of men and women who don't have a college degree, but they have certificates. and those certificates afford them the paycheck that in the past a college degree used to get you. Um, so that's just kind of like my response to that, because I think that's really what the answer is. There is no right answer for there is no blueprint answer. Why got to look like Woodrow just now? I'm sorry, man.
Okay.
There is no blueprint answer. There's no cookie cutter
I
response
was
for
trying to get these devices to work.
We're gonna have to
Yeah.
send you back to the chat, Gaddy.
man.
We're gonna have to,
And you know he got something good to say too. That's the best part about it. But again, college or no college, it's not just a cookie cutter answer that you apply to everybody. Sure, your parents may have gone to college, and so you may feel inclined to go to college. But you know, talk to your parents, find out what it is what it is you guys been talking about. Ask them if they're asking you to go to college. We're gonna enter into a question that kind of presses that as well. Find out how college can help you get there, get to where you want to get to, and I think that's really the answer from my perspective.
right. And but that now that piece of paper saying that you have a degree does look good. If you like me, I'm retired. So if I want a job, when they see okay, master's degree, they see that on that, and they say okay, he has an education. So they think, I just went to school. Uh, but the piece of paper does matter. So if you have a child that says, I may want to work in a certain field, I say get all of the education, whether it be certificates, whether it be degrees, that you can, and just maintain that so that just in case you want to get a job, just in case you want to put your paperwork against someone else's paperwork, you won't be complaining.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is the key right here, right? Years ago, we used to assume that intelligence was marked by education. So the higher your educational degree is, we think, oh, that person's very smart. But then we've kind of gotten to a point in society to where standardized testing doesn't measure intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Standardized testing more so measures how well the teacher taught you how to take the standardized test. So now we have a different understanding. Intelligence is a combination of a number of different things to where you can look at a problem set and apply some type of learning that you gain up to that point. That's the true mark of intelligence. And so the college degree, more so, they've gotten better over the years to where they now get you to the point to where you have to apply what you're learning in a college setting. So they're trying to tap into those levels of intelligence. But again, like Roland's saying, those college degrees, they carry weight, especially when you consider where you go to school at. And again, you have a plan for the degree that you're going after. The worst thing that you can do is pursue a degree just to have a degree, and that degree does not amount to anything but a high school diploma plus. I hate to say it, there are some degrees out there to where you can waste time pursuing. So make sure it has meaning. Make sure it has meat. Man, this is where were you guys when I was graduating high school, man? I could have used all of this right here.
Yeah.
Let's see. I believe attending college should be intentional. Going, okay, yep, absolutely. I agree with that 100. It has to be intentional. Don't do like I did. Wake up one day and say, "Hey, I'm going to college," and just had no idea what I want to do. I wanted to be an accountant, and I changed my major like 3 times. So yeah, don't do that. Um, my oldest is listening. He says that he is not mentally ready for college. He agrees with life skills and certifications for skill sets. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And that may change next year. Who knows? But based upon what he is desiring to do with his life, for me, if he was my son, I would kind of develop what that looks like. If we're talking about life skills and certifications, what do you want a certification in? How are you going to apply that certification? Like, where did that certification get you to? And what is the end state after that certification? For me, I wouldn't just be satisfied with the answer of a certification. I want the meat and potatoes behind it. And if he doesn't have it yet, that's okay. Me asking him the question starts the wheels turning for him to think about it. So thank you for sharing that. Let me see. Without a degree, you aren't qualified. Oh, yep, absolutely. Yep, absolutely. Uh,
And like me, you know, after being, after not working since February 2013, I have a job interview on Tuesday. And on the job interview, it's like 5 certifications that I have to get in finance. I'm medical, but I'm getting these certifications in finance, but I'm getting them because they pay.
Yeah.
So for me, it's not about the passion or anything. It's about the money. Right now, it's about the money because I'm looking at it for to see how much money I can make in this. It's decent. I say it's really nice money, and
Yeah.
so these certifications will help. But also, when they see on my paperwork degree, that also help put get my foot in the door.
Yeah. I'm not going to tell you how many certifications I got, but I think that brother is bagged. Young Timothy, are you with us?
I think I'm in the game, Coach.
Okay.
That's what I'm talking
My
about.
camera is a little was acting a little funny, but I think I'm back in.
All right. That's all right. We can still hear you, sir. Go on and preach to us real quick.
Yeah, but I agree with everything I heard and I see. Because I think one of the biggest problems for our generation was you were beat if you didn't go to college. You wasn't really going to achieve much. You know, so when that military opportunity became real to me at that point, when it was like, well, college might not seem real right now. I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do as far as grades and getting into a good program. So this reality of me doing what I wanted to do, joining the military, seemed more real, you
Yeah.
know. Uh, but as I got older, I realized how much information I was not given when I was in high school about
Mhm.
programs and certifications and training. Like now they flooding the internet trying to get these kids to learn how to do coding and STEM courses in middle school. You know, for us, we got older and was like, "What's this coding thing you talking about?"
Yeah.
But
Coding has gotten
I
huge.
I think that we definitely, yeah, and I think that we definitely got to start researching these programs that are out here for our young men and pushing them into the right direction. At least see what they're interested in and see if there's programs that are available to get them started.
Yeah. And to kind of cap it off what he's saying, well, let me address this first. I like what Sergeant Major saying here. He said for some college can be intimidating. I agree 100% because you done been through school for 12 years. Some people just don't want to go to college. Some people in their mind they just don't test well, and they view college as just an additional facet of them continuing the same cycle that they've been in for the past 12 years. So some may need that mental break when it comes down to college. So absolutely. Um, you know, uh, I think it's important also when we're talking about again college, no college, and again, I don't like dichotomies, but again, that's just kind of like what we're talking about. These are only two options: college and no college. But if we don't look at it as college or no college, sure, that's the end state. But don't look at it as yes or no. Look at it as all of the options that are available. Right? You got college, you got certifications, you got trade, you got on the job training. You may want to go and study abroad someplace. That's an option as well. So don't just look at it as a dichotomy. Look at it as what are your options and lay them all on the table. And once all of the options are on the table, now let's choose the best option that gets me to where I want to go. And I think that's one of the most empowering ways to look at it. Now, I kind of touched on this a little bit, but this was the next question. I feel pressured by my parents, college or military, another dichotomy, right? What advice can you give me? And
Be prepared.
I think the condition behind this is I've heard this before, right? When you turn 18, you're gonna have to do something with yourself. You're gonna get up, you're going to school or you're going to the military, one or the other. But I'm about to turn your room into my next office.
I think this is twofold for me because I think children should always and parents should be preparing their children to be adults and to be self sufficient. But I think sometimes we get so focused on them leaving the nest that we allow them to leave ill prepared. So even if they go to school, when you go, come on, you know how it is. You go to school, it's a party. I don't care what school you go to, it's a party every day. It's a party, just like when you come to the military. But I think you have to start preparing them for life after they leave your nest. And if you prepare them right, they'll be set. But it shouldn't be a stipulation. I think that you should know your children, have a relationship with them, so that you don't have to make demands like that. Because I think you put more pressure for them to get out, and they may know where they are or aren't.
Yeah. Here's why I like what you're saying. Um, because I think it's not looked at as the college, it's not looked at as college or the military as me moving on with my life. You just trying to kick me out the house.
Right.
And for me, I think the picture that paints is that the child being more of a nuisance than you really want to help the child progress in their career. And so when you kind of set that stipulation, I think that puts the child in the wrong mental space. And then what may end up happening is that it be neither or. They don't go to the college or they don't join the military because they are struggling with life from a place of feeling somewhat traumatized. Uh-oh, wait, hold on. Let me see what we got going on here. All right. Your hamster wheel good now, brother?
Oh, I can hear us in his. He got a delay.
Yeah, we're doing a, a little bit better. I'm trying
Are
to
you in Kuwait, brother?
close out this other one.
That's like we on Skype or something back in the day.
You know what? That is kind of interesting because it does sound like that.
Nah,
So as he's
man,
work,
I'm
eh,
I'm in here trying to make it happen.
I got you. I got you. So as he's working through, Michelle says, as the culture shifted, college was a topic of discussion at the dinner table. I like the encouragement. I like the encouragement either way. College or trade works both. College or trade both works. Absolutely. Um, absolutely. But going back to what I was saying, when we apply that kind of pressure on a child, because you got to realize there's a number of different things going on in their head, right? Especially if they have a significant other, right? So they're trying to figure out. Well, first of all, they're trying to graduate. Let's just keep that in mind. So you got graduation, you got what's going to happen after graduation, you got all these other things going on, like what I want to do with my life, if I have a significant other, where they're going, trying to keep up with all this stuff and then still trying to hang out with friends and find out what my friends are doing. Because now you got to realize we're going to end up going through separation anxiety as children because all of our friends now are going to disperse. So we're all moving on. Get, I'm going to have to put you on mute, brother. And we're moving on, right? But it's like these are my close friends. So some are going to college, some going this way, some going that way. So it's a degree of separation anxiety in there. And then when you say, hey, college or military, well, now you're adding to the separation anxiety that they may experience. And parents, I apologize, but these are some of the things that we have to consider. They may need an additional year. Let me be clear. I left home when I did out of necessity, not because I was kicked out. I left because I wanted to go and make life happen for me. I got tired of seeing the things that I saw when I was growing up, and I wanted to get into the world and just start doing what I needed to do to take care of myself. My mother raised me with a sense of responsibility and raised me to be accountable for self, even though I was still trying to figure that out. But I knew I needed to move on, because me sticking around would have been a little bit more of a burden on her. I think today is different because I don't think any brother on on this panel right now, I don't think they would actually have a problem with their children staying an additional year. And I'm saying this, I'm smiling as I say it, right? Staying an additional year because it's no longer a necessity thing. It's not a survival thing. It's not okay. It's an additional mouth I gotta feed. It's none of that, right? So we're in a different space now. It's a different era, and because of that, we have to evolve with time. So when you look at it from that perspective, my situation was different because more survival. Now, this day and age, you don't have to push them out the door.
And also, it has become a cultural norm where it's our culture that makes sure, hey, get them out the house, get them out the house. Whereas other cultures may, when they have children that come of age, the children, as they are finding themselves, they're working and also helping with the house. So they have a bill. You take on responsibilities. You're not just living in my house just because, and you're not just coming and going as you please, just like you're not going to school, you're not doing this, and you just coming and going living your life. No, it doesn't work like that. I have to set you up for the realities of life, even whether you're here or outside of my home.
Yeah. Young Timothy, you with me? Can you hear me? Hold on, let me see.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yep, I got you. Go ahead, sir.
I always ask this question: what's wrong with our community versus other communities that we create separation between the generations
Hmm.
versus creating something that the next generation can carry on? You know, so I say that to say, like, it would be a dream for me to be able to build a business or something in the future that I can teach to my next generation. I got two boys
Yeah.
that they can grow up and they I don't have to rush them out the home. You can go to college and come back because we're building something together, you know. So what am I rushing? If I'm rushing you out, we built that mindset because it's like, you have to go and build something for your own because a man has to, because we're teaching a toughness that Black men for generations had to have to survive in America mentally. You have to have a level of toughness. But now we're gaining traction on information. We're gaining traction on opportunity. And I think the next step is to be able to build things that can stay in the community, because we're the only community that don't have anything that leans over to the next generation, that your son takes on, that you left him,
Yeah.
you know.
I think we're still teaching from a 60s, 70s, 80s paradigm where we learned from people coming out of segregation, Jim Crow, and those things where you had to strive to get, and I couldn't have you in here. And that's how we grew up. And say we were taught that. Well, I had to be out. It was either the military or college, or get out. And but we aren't looking at everything as a whole, because these see, I think we think the kids are slow or dumb because they don't learn like we learn or have the same information, whereas they may be smarter than us in some aspects. It's just they grasp it a different way. Like I can't do my, what grade I go? Well, when my granddaughter was in the third, fourth grade and they come home with that new math, Papa wasn't helping teach math. No, I got to get the book, and I got to know the answers, because if I do it, I know 5 times 5 is 25. I can just write it down. No, you got to show your work and put it in this box and put. Go to your mama. See, but so they have information. It's just whether or not they have the information along with the know-how and push to be successful in life and whatever their passion is.
Yeah, and so I agree with what you guys are saying, and I want to make sure we're clear. I don't want to have this conversation at such a level that we're missing the target audience here, but I think you're absolutely right. When we were younger, education was based upon a linear thought pattern, right? So for me to make a decision, it had to meet a certain criteria. So 1 plus 1 automatic 2, 2 plus 2 automatic 4. What is being taught now is they're trying to teach them how to be more non-contiguous in their thought processes. So if the equation does not equal that linear process, can you still solve the problem or not? Well, I think that kind of bleeds over into societal norms, that bleeds over into what you see when you go outside and you're dealing with people left and right. Right, if this person does this, this is going to be my automatic response. Well, once you start thinking in a non-contiguous format, you start realizing that, hey, I had about 5 different options. Why did I choose that one? And so when we look at these things, you're absolutely right. Those were the things that we were raised under, but we did not have to pass that on. There were other options as well. And I think that's the point that we need to get across to the younger generation. You have a number of different options. Every time there is a decision, excuse me, every time there's a decision that needs to be made, you have a multitude of options that you can make. don't always choose the first option you come up with. Stop, analyze the situation, come up with different courses of action, and choose the best course of action for you at that given point in time. So now I'm glad you brought it to the table because you guys are absolutely right. But I don't want to overshoot anything. Moving on, because we got like one more question and then we got to get to our final thoughts here. How do I determine what career is right for me? Because I'm an introvert and I don't like dealing with people.
I'll let you go, Gaddy, because I know your minute's free after 9. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead. You know I'm a comedian, man. Go ahead.
Oh my God, man, that was wrong.
I know. That's all right. We're gonna be on tomorrow. I see you. You know, I I look at it like from the same aspect as if we were talking to a church audience, right? Is understanding what your calling is in life, right? And I think when we hear the term calling, we always think of something ministry. I'm I'm called to do this or preach on, but what are you called to be in in this world, in this community? In other words, what is the thing that interests you inwardly? Because I think you would not only would you perform better, but you're getting more self satisfaction out of that job. You would enjoy showing up, and maybe not enjoy showing up. Not everybody enjoy, it, but you won't be so hesitant to get out the bed to get there if it's something that fulfills you inwardly, right? So I always say, you might be an introvert, so customer service might not be it. You might not want to answer phones or greet people, but what is that thing that you do well? There's a job market out there for that thing you do well and that thing you enjoy doing. And sometimes you're not going to get it at 19, 18, 20, 21. Sometimes you're going to live and realize in the middle of living, this thing right here is what I can do.
Now Roland playing basketball.
Nah, I thought he was pausing again. Nah. That doggone headset was hurting me. How do I determine what career is right for me? I think first and foremost, you plan from the end to start at the beginning. What's your end game? What's your end goal? How much money do you want to make? And not just don't make it a monetary thing, but I think you have to see what you want to do, because you don't want to be miserable in something for 20, 30 years. And then you skipping around and say, okay, I'm going to start teaching. Like when I went to college, everybody wanted to be, oh, I'm going into business management or criminal justice. Everybody was doing it. Say, I'm gonna open up a business. Or they thought they could be a lawyer going to criminal justice field. And then all of them got degrees, and next thing you know, they working doing everything but that. I think you first and foremost, that's why I say expose your children to different things so that they can see what they want to do, and see what do you like. Some people like me, I like to talk, but I don't want to be at somebody's call center making $12 an hour. So you have to think, what's your passion for work that you would love to do? You would do it for free, but somebody's going to pay me to do it. And as an introvert, if you're an introvert, you still have likes and dislikes. You still have wants and needs. So find whatever it is in you where you may have to challenge yourself to get out of being so introverted, get around people, because unless you working at home online or whatever, you gonna be in the workplace. So I think the career kind of chooses you when you have a passion.
I like that. That's pretty good. I like both you guys say. I'm gonna go a different route. Um, I want to start off by saying first and foremost, we people, um, there is no absolute in any man. I am not an absolute introvert. I am not an absolute extrovert. We are the perfect combination of both. Some may be a little more of one than they are another, but given the right situation at the right time, you will look the opposite of that. So I say that to say, don't. I don't like saying this phrase. I'm gonna say it this time. Don't put yourself in a box, right? Don't put yourself in a box of introversion. I hate that phrase, by the way. Don't do that to yourself, right? Find out, like Edgar says here, find out what your strengths are. Like what are your strengths, like personality wise? What are your intellectual strengths? What are some of the talents that you actually have? I bet if you put yourself in a scenario where you are, and I hate to add this one to, where you feel like you're in control, you put yourself in a scenario where your strengths are at the forefront, I bet you won't look like an introvert. So that's the thing that I say. The challenge is not identifying whether you're an introvert or extrovert. The challenge is finding out those things to where if you were put in those situations, you would thrive. And Roland just gave you a great few examples. Tawami just gave you a few great examples. Edgar just gave you a great example, and I'm glad he said it because that's exactly what I was going to say anyway. Um, great minds think alike. Thank you, sir. But my whole point behind it is that that means that you have to study yourself, learn what you like, learn what you're good at, learn what some of the things you need to work on. We don't abandon those totally, but I'm not going to go look for a job to where it doesn't necessarily play to my strength. I'm going to look for a job to where it does play in my strength. I stand on a platform and I teach students. That's my strength. I like teaching. I enjoy teaching. Sometimes I teach so much to when I get off work, I have to go and take a nap because that's my strength. Because when I'm standing before students, I give them the best version of who I am at that particular point in time. So understand who you are, study yourself, ask questions, ask your parents, like, so when you see me, what would you think? What would you say a few of my strengths are? Right? It's a very uncomfortable conversation to have, but it might be one of the most empowering conversations that you can have with anybody. Don't just ask your parents because let's just be honest, they got a bias in the whole conversation, right? Go ask somebody else that you know ain't gonna hold it and pull it in punches. Ask somebody who's gonna give you the raw, uncut truth. Not saying that your parents won't. I'm just saying they have a personal bias, and you are it. They love every version of you, so they're not going to say, well, they're not going to say, well, you're not good at doing this, or you're great at doing that, but not at this. So get multiple perspectives on who you are, and I think that will kind of help you get into the answer to that question. Um, Great, brother. I'm sorry.
Who?
I thought Gabby was about to say something.
Yeah, because you said something that made me think, right? Because growing up, I probably would have said I was an introvert. Uh, I didn't like too many people. I didn't like to speak in front of too many people. I'll sing, you put a beat on, I'll sing, but I consider myself an introvert. But when my environment changed, my personality kind of changed. My comfort level changed as my environment changed, as my mindset changed. And that's just an encouragement to somebody out there who's young who might think that about himself. I'm an introvert, so I can't this, and this. But sometimes you got to move on in life and see how things open up. Don't run from a challenge because you see yourself in that box. I had to take that word from you, Coach.
Hey, man, I told you I don't like saying it, but it fits every now and then. And no, you're absolutely right. Welcome to the show, Brax, all the way from Dallas, Texas. We appreciate having you on. Always good to see you. All right, gentlemen, last question of the day. I know the salary that I want. And this is, and I want to make sure I'm setting condition. This is a high school graduate. I know the salary that I want, but it's difficult finding a job that pays it. Can you help me?
Well, that depends on what the salary is, because I think sometimes people have lofty expectations when it comes to salary and don't necessarily want to put the work. Because if you know that salary, you have to look up jobs that maintain that level of whatever you're seeking. If it's 6 figures, 7 figures, or whatever, and you got to have a doctorate, a D-Min, a master's, or whatever type of degree to get in those fields. You already know what you got to do. We ain't got to tell you nothing. Get to work. But if it's something where you're looking at somebody online and you say, "Man, this dude, all he don't even say a word. He just pointing up and they doing this, that, and the other, and he's making $1 million. He's making 700,000 an episode." Or if it's in the musical realm or whatever, all in any of the arts, remember, if you Gary can tell you also, and I dove in a little bit, but if you get into that realm, remember your entertainment industry is not meant to make you money. It's meant to expose your talent for other people to make money. But you got to get in there and put in the work. If you know how much you want to make, look at jobs that only make that and don't settle.
I want to kind of pity. Yeah, kind of back off of what he said. You gotta know the market you want to get into. I think going to the job uh, into the job world, knowing your salary before you know the market you want is a setup for failure, because you'll never find the job you want. Especially at entry level, you're probably not gonna, even if you feel your worth is 100,000. What do you have that shows your worth is 100,000? Because it's not just your degree. Because if you got the education and no experience, they're gonna say you need the experience. If you got the experience, no education, they're gonna say you need the the education. So at some point, you got to be willing to come into that market you want and begin to work in that market, the system, the way that it is designed to work. Because at the end of the day, I think too much in this generation, we think that we can set the standards for somebody else's money, and we can't do that. We have to lose that mindset, unless you're gonna stay on social media and be and be a what they call them, influencer.
Also,
You know, you set the stage for your audience. I get that, but if you're going out into the job market, you have to understand that you're going to operate into somebody else's business to get somebody else's money so you can feed your family.
yeah.
So what you have to go in and be willing to work that system so that you can gain what you want to get out of it. And if it's that salary, then maybe I need to start here, build my experience, and then build my education on the other end slope, until I'm able to marry those two things together to say, hey, I want to apply for this higher position.
Man, I love that. These brothers are dropping nuggets, and I love what Sergeant Major's saying right here, because I think that's a perfect example of what a parent actually does for their child to help launch them out into the world. So shout out to Sergeant Major, man. That's an awesome plan. Please jot that down. Take a picture of that. Put that in your toolbox, because that's huge right there. I'm
Yeah.
going to piggyback off of what you gentlemen said. This is nothing but expectation management. Um, but I want to go back to what I said about what you need to do with the introvert or extrovert or whoever you feel you are, studying yourself, have an understanding of yourself so that you can learn the job that you want. Then you go study the job, understand what it takes to be that, understand the progression in that, right? And you might want to go research the salary range within that job as well. That helps. It's easy to do. Go to Google, and I think Indeed actually helps you to see that, or monster.com, one of those job sites. But I think it's also important to understand that there's literally four areas you get paid. You get paid for experience, right? Junior experience, senior experience. You get paid for education, and then education and experience. That's the tiers of the pay scale. So when you look at it, if you're just going in with, little experience, then you're going to get little check. I hate to be so blunt and honest, but that's how it works. If you have a lot of experience, then you'll get a lot of a little check. If you have the education and no experience, you're going to get educated check. And then if you have education plus experience, then you're going to get the education, you're going to get the educationally experienced check, which is going to be the top version of the pay scale. But understand that education incorporates those certificates and all those other certifications that you can actually get for that particular job. So again, this is expectation management. We need to understand the law of sacrifice. You may have to sacrifice something now to get what you want later when it comes down to that paycheck. Sacrifice the idea of the paycheck for the career that you want that can get you that paycheck later. There's nothing wrong with that. That's one of the things that we as parents should be training our children up to understand the law of sacrifice. Give up something smaller for a greater gain. I think that's important to understand because with this particular question, it is a great question, but again, it's a question that I know that not just you, but a lot of young people struggle with because again, they see the best version of somebody else's highlight reel and they see the shoes, the clothes, the cars, and all they see is I want what it takes to get that. It's not the money they're after, it's the status. So again, I want to make sure I'm saying that relinquish the idea of what the money looks like now and then suffer it to be so that you put forth the energy and the effort to get that at a later point in time. There's nothing wrong with taking, like using this example that Sergeant Major used. There's nothing wrong with being a paralegal before you become a lawyer. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. So we have to understand what the the scale is for that particular job. So all great comments, and I appreciate that, gentlemen. As always, phenomenal job, phenomenal feedback, great insight. But I need one more from you. I need some advice for these teenagers, young men, and mom raising boys when it comes down to just when it comes down to helping me make the right career choice. How can you help me?
I think parents should allow a range of free thought because sometimes we hinder them from being themselves, so they won't even learn who they are or what they like or what they want to be until they're 10 years out of their parents' houses. And then it's kind of not too late, but they are already established in some bad patterns. So I think you got to allow them to think for themselves a little bit and have cognitive thought where they can make decisions without saying, Ma, Dad. They can do something on their own. And when it comes to the money, I think nurses sometimes get paid $20 an hour. And so you have people, and that's $20 an hour is $800 a week, 52 weeks. That's 4116, $41,600. Sorry. So when you're looking at money, that's not a lot of money. And that's $20 an hour. And we got people making $7 an hour or striving for 15. So don't look at the number so much. Look at the opportunity and look at the opportunities that will bring. So parents, sit them down and bring them to a state of reality because sometimes they have these, I want to make $150,000 a year. Doing what? Like you just out of high school, you like Dwayne said, you don't have education, you don't have time in anything, and you just have a want. You don't have a know-how. So that's my last word.
I like it. Young Timothy.
Uh, I I say like because I'm gonna try to answer this two folds together at the same time. I would say give them that room, not just for free thought, but for the right to think differently. Uh, because it's easy to say, well, let me not just say it's easy to say. Sometimes we're stuck in the mindset of how we grew up, and the environment and the conditions are different, so they think different. So the career path may seem a little untraditional, but allow them to move freely in their with what's processing in their mind. Because sometimes I think it's so easy for us to jump out there and chase the money or chase a certain career path because what was formulated in our mind, we've never been given room to develop it into a true thought of what I want to do. So and that's as young as as you can get them. Some of y'all, trying to get them out the house now, but also to pair with that, just like we do these basketball players and we do these football players and we run them through drills and send them through camps and send them through this in the traditional job market. Why can't we teach our young men how to put in that same level of effort to whatever their skill is into the job market? Because then maybe that $35,000 job in 10 years turn into an $80,000 job. That turns into, because his level of worth for that company or in that field grows. I want to know who the first man to not work for a tech company that decided my worth is so much higher than working for a company that I'm going to contract for companies, and they make more. They're making that $100,000 per contract versus per year. So that's what I would say. Give them that room to think and grow.
No, I appreciate that. And just in case you guys missed it, Chris gave his last comments as well. So shout out to Chris, man. We definitely appreciate you. I tell you, I need to get him some theme music every time he said it every week. Listen, I want to say it's pretty much going to be the same thing in a different way, but I want to say it like this. We have to train them up while they're young, teach them the value of working hard, right? There's nothing wrong with working hard. There's nothing wrong with breaking a sweat for something other than basketball or football or something with their name on the back of a shirt. There's nothing wrong with giving them chores, holding them responsible, right? So teach them responsibility. That's first and foremost. As they progress, what you will find is that they won't have an issue going out there and working hard for a living. Now, working hard does not necessarily mean manual labor. It just means the ability to complete what you started. That's the thing I want to get after. Teach them the ability to complete what they started. Then you help usher them into life, right? You have the experience, they have the curiosity. So you help usher them into life, kind of like what young Timothy was just saying, right? Don't stifle their thoughts. Don't tell them what they're thinking is wrong. Ask them why, what made, what, how did you come to that conclusion? Like what led you to that thought process? Where did you get that from? Okay, so let's go research this and let's go look this up and see what this look like. Teach them how to build a resume. There's nothing wrong with that. Teach them how to build a resume early. In high school, I know there are some classes that do it, but everybody doesn't get the opportunity to take those classes. Teach them how to build a resume. Do some mock interviews with them at home. Have them to develop the confidence of talking about themselves. That's the hardest thing for people to do, right? They can talk about anybody else, right? They were talking about Will and Jada Smith months back. But when you want them to talk about themselves, I don't know what to say. No, that's not what you're going to say in an interview, right? Ask them questions that make them think. Don't just ask them those linear thought process questions. Ask them questions that are situational. Now you're making them think on a higher plane. So when they go to an interview, they're going to perform better in the interview than some of their competitors, even if they have a college degree. Listen, I'll be honest with you. I've had resumes in my hand and like the resume fit exactly what we were looking for. They made it to the interview. I didn't hire them. I've had the perfect resume in my hand. Like literally, this person was exactly who we were looking for. Came to the interview. I asked him situational questions and he just answered the questions. Didn't get him the job. So these are the things that they need to learn now. Don't have them to wait when they get old, get older and just try to figure it out. That should not be worldly experiential learning. That experiential learning need to take place in the house. Teach them the things that you didn't learn until you got out the house. Then, young men, you need to do a self-assessment. Look in the mirror and ask yourself, am I where I want to be? Am I living up to the quality that I know that resides within me? That's one of the best questions that you can ask yourself because it's if the answer is no, then what is the thing that I need to do to better myself? Every young man need to be focused on bettering himself for the family that he is going to get before the family shows up. Don't wait till the family show up and they say, "Oh, I got to do better now." It's too late. It's too late. You're in survival mode right now. Better yourself so that you could be what that family needs when you get the family. Moms, Chris told you that already. No, I'm joking. Listen, listen, man. Listen, moms, you're doing a fantastic job. I want to make sure I'm saying that. We're not saying I didn't say you're doing a perfect job. You're doing a fantastic job. Here's the best part about what I just said. There's no parent that has ever done a perfect job. Parenting for me was a progression. When I had my first child, I was clueless. When I had my second child, I was a little less clueless. The third child, I was a little less. You get my point? Don't be so hard on yourself. I know you hear a lot of information coming from us. That's okay. It's just information. We're not saying that everything we're saying is right. It is, as they used to say in the National Training Center, it is a way, right? Take the best of what you heard, apply it. What you don't agree with, don't apply it. But I want to make sure I tell you that you're doing a great job. I was raised by my mom, and she did it. I think I turned out pretty good. So nothing is not. Trust me, you didn't break them. They're okay. But we can we can do things differently now. So again, we're here for you guys. We're your biggest fans. Yep. Go ahead. I'm sorry, girl. Go ahead, Roland.
I didn't want to stop you. I just want to let you know. But I also, one thing, instill in your kids to fail to keep going. Don't fail to quit. Like if you're not failing, you're not trying, because everybody fails. I think sometimes we have, I'm not going to call them weak, but we made them to where failure means that, oh, they just lose everything. They just, get sporadic and everything. I think failure means I tried, I didn't make it, but I'm going to try again. And we got to instill that in our kids to keep trying until you get it. You got to get where you want. It ain't I'm failing, so I quit. No, don't. And never let your kids, especially your sons, never let, if they get in something, they say, I want to play football. And then he get knocked upside the head and he don't like it. Nope. You gonna stick it out.
Get back in there.
Yeah.
I had a coach tell me one time, he said, you're not failing because you don't know how to do it. You're failing because you don't know how to do it my way. Sometimes failure means you operate differently. And parents, sometimes we have to learn how our kids think, because all of our children don't think like us.
Right.
And we have to allow them that room to grow in the way because then when they get out there and they're afraid to operate because they don't, I got a kid on the team that I coach. He's afraid to shoot because his form is different than everybody else's. But at practice, he can't miss. But in the game, he hesitating because his form don't look like everybody else's. Allow him that room to operate how he operates.
Yeah. See, these brothers don't know how to turn it off. You see that? See what I'm saying? This is why I love them, man. These guys are awesome. Listen, we've taken up enough of your time on this beautiful Friday evening. Listen, we thank each and every one of you for joining us on this evening. We appreciate you. Again, if it's your first time, go ahead and subscribe. Hit the notification button so you'll know every time we go live. We will be here next Friday talking about another amazing topic. So on behalf of my brothers on the panel and our brother in the distance, Chris, we miss you, brother. Look forward to having you back next year. You guys have a great and wonderful weekend. Georgia plays at 7 p.m. tomorrow night. See you guys watching. Again, have a great and wonderful weekend. We'll see you guys next week.